Yes, sir. Very good evening to everyone. On behalf of I would like to welcome all of you on behalf of Internal Auditing Standard Board of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. And our today's topic is audit of network security. How the IT system is enable the internal audit of a company. And today we have presence of very eminent speakers with us, and we have also with us in the soon. Meanwhile, CA Sonia Arora, madam, chairman of the Jalandhar branch of ICAI, and now we would like to introduce CA Dr. Paul Jaykar, our today's speaker on the audit of network security. And I would like to introduce him. So he is a director in IT and RMS risk management services in CNK and Associates LLP, and he is also independent director in Panasonic Carbon India Company Limited. Past employment or assignments was he was director in IT and RMS in Brahmaya and Company Chartered Accountants. He was also the consultant in Messrs. Ernst & Young IS Security Division, and he was consultant in Royal Soft Services in Chennai, and he was also associated with CTO Royal Soft Services Limited in Chennai, and he was the chief executive of Octagon Technology Limited, a company involved in software development and software training and software consultancy also. And he was also consultant in Macmillan India. And he was having the vast experience in IT system, RBIA, BPR, and ER remediation in financial institutions, banking and NBFCs, manufacturing, airports, reports, infrastructure, and he has also the experience in digital forensic audits and analytics and PPR data analytics for business, IFC, RCMs, Indian companies and MNCs also. And he was handling the various assignments related to IT system in BPOs in healthcare industries and social security transactions. Apart from these, he has also the experience in SOX compliances, ISMS, ISPS, NABH, and ITH. And apart from these, he has handling the compliances which are related to audit, certifications, and internal control reviews and evaluations. He has also done some overseas assignments also in USA, Malaysia, Sri Lanka, and apart from other countries also. And he has also the teaching experience in Madras, in the various colleges, in various universities which are related to board of studies also, and strategic business management and IT and related areas. And he has a vast experience in Java also, in Java, XML, Basics, Kobo, Oracle, and SQL as well. And he has presented various papers in the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, ISACA, and also related to SIRC studies circles and University of Madras also. And he has a professional membership of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. He's a of ICAI, and he is also ISACA qualified, and he is also member of Institute of Internal Auditors Board of Governors and past president of the Madras chapter of ICAI. So welcome, sir, in this today's VCM on behalf of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India and on the topic of audit of network security. So welcome, Paul, sir, on behalf of Internal Auditing Standard Board of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India.
Thank you, Vijay, and thank all the Mr. Singh and the entire IASB and all the office bearers. Also welcome my co-speakers also for today. And I'll get started with our presentation. See, the topic for today is we have got, as auditors, one of the things which has come into our purview is, originally it was called EDP audit or IT audit, then became IS audit. And today we just use the word cyber security. Originally, the word cyber meant more of computers and internet and only network machines. But today, we have more or less accepted that anything to do with computers is cyber. That's okay. That's the industry's terminology, and we have to live with it. Now, cyber gets broken up. When you say cyber audit or cyber security audit, we are breaking it up into a lot of pieces. So today we are focusing on one piece, which is the network security alone. So what I will do is I'll first explain very briefly the components of the network, and then we'll look at all the difficulties which we could face as we go ahead with these networks, and then we'll have a few command line instructions in the Windows operating system to help us with the audits, because we have to use technology to enable these audits. Now think of and kind of a network where we have the internet, where my cursor is, that's the internet. And then we have a router. The routers are basically, they call it routers because the American pronunciation for a route is route. So these routers actually keep channeling traffic. Then we have what is called a firewall, which filters the traffic, allows known traffic, disallows unknown traffic. Known and unknown have to be defined by the users and by the network administrators, the security consultants. Now, this is important because we're getting data from outside. All internet is outside. Once it crosses the firewall, then we have two areas here. The top area here, there's three big servers, is called the DMZ, demilitarized zone, which is a word borrowed from the design of forts. And the kings, when they built their forts, they had an outer perimeter wall which connected up to the town or the city, an inner area which was restricted, but townspeople could come in and go out. And within that, a very secure area where only the soldiers, the king, etc., were allowed. DMZ is this common area where both town and town people and the soldiers can interact, but town people need permission to get in. So that's why the firewall. So after the firewall, we have the DMZ. Typically, it will have the web servers or mail servers where outsiders, that is unknown public, and the insiders interact. But you need to have a very secure zone where data processing takes place. So there's another internal router. And then we come to what is called the local area network. There will be a lot of local area networks. We'll use some names like domains, each of these being a domain. And then, of course, we'll have servers running them, not just one workstation. There will be plenty of workstations on a diagram. And then we'll have the remote locations. Lightning-like symbol means away from the main office. Of course, we know today we can use VPN because there's a lot of work from home going on. And we can also have remote access services which come to you from, we use this word dial-up. Even today it's dial-up, but we don't dial anymore. On a voice telephone, it's called DSL or ADSL, digital subscriber line. Or okay, the names change, but of course they get faster also. Only thing as auditors, you must keep abreast of all these latest terminology. Not just the regulators, but also the manufacturers keep creating new terms. So in our network, what we now understand is there's a public area, there is an extremely secure private area, there is a reasonably secure private area, but accessible to outsiders also. And then we are allowing our secure area to be accessed by distant locations. And if today's network diagram, this will be accessed by another computer also, real-time EDI, etc. So let's start with the first problem. Now we have routers here, both external and the internal. We have inadequate access control. That means we are ACL here means access control list. Now, what we are saying is, if these routers, they're basically like traffic signals. If they are not configured properly or somebody has not set it properly, then what will happen is wrong information or unwanted information can be sent into the network. That's what hackers do. They try to break of course, they try to break the rules of the firewall also, but they also like to break the protocols or the rules in the internal router and make sure their troublesome or nuisance traffic goes into the network somehow. So that is what we are trying to avoid here. This is the first security point, where the badly configured access control list will allow different types of packets to get in. ICMP's Internet Control Message Protocol, IP's Internet Protocol, etc. Because don't worry too much on these names. But what we are saying is, if we don't make sure the traffic is properly routed or rejected, one of the two things, then we could get unauthorized access to services on the DMZ or within the regular secure network itself, called the intranet. So first control, I mean, when let's say the first failure point can be inadequate router configurations or insufficient router configurations. Now the second point where we could have face a breakdown is unsecured, unmonitored these remote access points. Now, what do we mean by those? See, we are allowing outsiders to keep coming into our system. Outsiders means known outsiders. I'm not talking about the hackers, known outsiders. Now, when they come into the system, they need to connect up somewhere using this lightning symbol I told you is public network. They usually call it telecommunication lines or telecom lines. So these telecommunication lines can be tampered. I mean, a thief can break into this line. It's a public line. It's either phones or it's today they use wireless also. Could be microwave, satellite. I mean, it could be a lot of things. So what do? We have to secure these lines. So instead of unsecured and unmonitored, we should have secured and monitored remote access points. So we'll talk of something called virtual private networks and so on. Today, the third-party products also. If it's a web server, you will be using something called an SSL certificate. So your second location, or second point of breakdown is any remote communication which is not coming through your first firewall has to be subject to very strong encryption. The third point of failure is what we call as excessive trust relationships. Now, these are branch office machines. They come to the internal router. They are not external users. These are like not hardwired, but could be leased lines. There could be a more stronger way of connecting. Again, the problem here is, do we trust these people? People can substitute, just like humans, we have this impersonation in an exam. For machines, they call it spoofing, SPOOFING. You can put another machine here pretending to be a genuine machine, getting into your network. I mean, thieves are good at doing all that. So when you have trust relationships, where NT is actually Windows or Unix, the two basic operating systems. Either it will be Windows or Unix. So any unauthorized access to sensitive systems should be subject to a lot of controls. Now, we are not just talking encryption. We are also talking how do we identify the person. So if you looked at an old passport or something, they'll ask you physical identification marks. Like you have maybe a cut on your cheek or a mole on your hand or something. Maybe the Aadhaar card, they don't do that, but old passports and even certain agreements used to have some physical defect which had to be noted. Now, like that, we'll be noting what is called a MAC address, MAC address. That is a network card address in the machine. We'll bind it. So if any change of machine takes place, we'll know about it immediately. The fourth place where people can start meddling around is user or test accounts with excessive privileges. See, what happens is where most of the time, today the auditors are smarter. They will ask for disabling of all the test accounts, or they will make sure the test is a separate environment. But sometimes users are created with certain rights. And then they may get transferred, they may change, rights themselves get altered, roles and responsibilities get altered. Now, what will happen is these are also called access control lists. What will happen is the rights there can be misused. Now, this will be mostly an insider misuse, or can be an outsider who actually broke into all this, got into your system, and then stole something. But today, both are possible. See, the thing is, insiders, they are able to identify. Outsiders, very difficult to identify. So both inside and outsider, but generally it's an insider job because they will have more knowledge about which user left, which user had more rights, which user has been temporarily taken a vacation. So those kind of things. So this is another fourth area where weak area where auditor will have to check that security is high. Now we look at software which is not updated, unpatched. What basically it means is you get a lot of software, right from operating systems to packages to a lot of things we use in the system. A lot of ready-made software which is used in the system. Now, one of the difficulties of this ready-made software, it's not ours. We didn't write it. The third party keeps giving us some, they call it patches, something like updates. We'll have to keep posting it or updating our software with it. And we're supposed to do it regularly for operating systems, antivirus, network operating commands for all your routers and switches. They get a lot of patches. In fact, your Windows, Excel, everything gets patches. Now, these patches have to be tested on a standalone environment, make sure there's no problem with it, and then move it to the production environment and update them. If you don't update, see why do patches come? Two reasons. One, it may be a logical requirement in the business logic changes. That's more rare. What is more common is you will definitely have bugs which somebody has found out. Now, those bugs, you have to make sure that it is kind of patched and taken care of. So the problem here is if you don't patch whatever the manufacturer asked you to patch, exploiters will make use of it. In fact, whenever you have ransomware attacks, the root cause analysis is always software, and not just the software, the entire network, not being up to date. Right from very big to like CTS we had in India or even European, whatever. So all these companies, the root cause analysis is very simple. Somebody was too lazy to update something, and that fellow knew the exact unpatched version he was able to exploit. Now, is this audit point? Yes, but we may not be able to. We don't write the patches. We only make sure the patches are updated, for which, of course, we have to check the updates. We need software to do all this. Then we also need extremely strong and robust security policies, procedures, guidelines. Okay, policies are just stick to the policies. Now, what are the strong policies? There should be no override of a control, however important the person is. The MD wants something, the CEO wants something, board of directors want something. No override of controls. Many cases of exploits, the root cause analysis has always been that somebody at the top wanted something. Actually, even social engineering, what they do is they call the administrator or the support desk late at night and say, I'm the CFO speaking or I'm the CISO speaking. I need to do this immediately. Can you get it done? And by asking questions to different people, he knows the name of the operator. He knows certain specific information. So the operator thinks, okay, the real CFO who is calling is he's never met those people. I mean, operators are our help desk is at the bottom of the chain. CXOs are at the top of the chain. So he doesn't know who they are. He may not know their voice, but the fact that they know so much about the company, he believes them, opens up something, and then the exploit happens. When you read most of these cases, the root cause, not the media hype. When you go to the root cause, you'll find that most of these could have been avoided. Okay, maybe if we went back, I'll come back to that. Now, what is the auditor's job? Social media engineering attacks are very common. So he has to make sure all the policies are made aware to all the people in the organization. Then we have the next one where we have excessive file and directory access. What it means is you're not restricting this to known people, or it's called a principle of least privileges, need to know, need to do. Instead of that, everybody is allowed to access freely, modify, copy files. This normally happens when in an internet situation where people think it's very secure, we don't need any specific logs. A group of people, let's say the marketing people, all of them can transfer files freely. We'll say it's for convenience, it's for fast response. But the problem is these sharing or free access to data can cause a lot of trouble. So there we need to have what's called it's called an access control list, but basically like a matrix. Who actually has which file access and what can you do? Read only, write only, modify, or maybe copy or delete or whatever the rights are. And these rights are checked thoroughly. These are machine-driven files. So no change in the rights unless it is properly authorized. The next area is we have unauthenticated services. You can ignore the X windows. This is a Unix concept. Now, remote keystroke capturing. Maybe you're reading this, so there's a concept, there's a program called Keylogger, Keylogger. No, it was meant for a genuine purpose. See, when you debug systems, and people say suddenly my machine is doing that, it's erratic behavior, intermittent problems. So they enable the keylogger. And when this misbehavior of the machine happens, we look at what keystrokes were typed and then see it's a user error or a software bug and so on. But hackers and thieves or bad people, they also can enable these keyloggers. They can implant those in your system. Keep watching how you are, what are the keys you're typing, not just the passwords and the IDs, but also the pattern of keystrokes. See, for instance, if during Diwali your sales was high and later on it's low, I'd like to have that pattern so that I'll create false traffic, or I'll maybe break into something exactly in the same pattern. High traffic before festival, low traffic after festival. If I didn't know that and I went for high traffic after festival, I'll get caught immediately. It's a suspicious pattern and you'll identify it immediately. So these keyloggers keep tracking keystrokes of the users and they are misused. So what we do is try to disable the keyloggers or don't use them. Virtual keyboards, like if you typed on a touch screen or if you spoke to your machine like voice commands, they won't get recorded. So in many sensitive applications, they remove the keyboard and give you a touch sensitive screen, like your kiosks or maybe the web check-in at the airport. You've seen all of them. Now they don't have keyboards, so you can't keylog because screen coordinates decide which character you're typing. The same screen, one screen will show ABCD, another screen will show you pictures, yet another screen will do something else which you drag. So there's no keys there. I'm making this easy, but these are the auditors' nightmares. And then we go to the passwords. Now, most of the time, the world is trying to change to biometrics. Fingerprints, eye retina, voice, you can smell, there are a lot of things they're trying to work with. But the problem is passwords are still common. So what a solution for that is instead of stronger and stronger passwords, you have more and more of authentication. So what you do is you'd like to have two-factor authentication, like a one-time password, an OTP sent to your phone, or you'd like to have a personal question. It's like what you have, what you know, and so on. So there are, that is, you'll need to have more than one data entered. It's like your PIN on your ATM card or whatever. So you need to have more than one data to make sure that the password is acceptable. This is again a very common area of problems. You can't eliminate passwords 100%, but let's have more than one factor, 2, 3. 2 is enough most of the time, but 3 if it is very critical. Then we have all these servers. Now servers, the biggest problem is web servers. I'll tell you why. Because most of the services in the world today have become web-driven. Your mail is on the web, your whatever you did, like even you're attending this conference on the web, I mean this seminar, your Zoom has opened up not as a client, but probably as a client in a web browser. So everywhere there are web browsers sitting, and we got used to them. Of course, we got a newer problem called apps which sit in your phones. Okay, we'll see that later. But anyway, right now when we get into the web service, then you could ask the question why a company is doing it. The reason is a web service is a simple service, uses only one or two ports, like you have the 8080, okay, HTTP, HTTPS, SHTTP, and that's it. Now, when you use a database access from your web server, only one access license is required. You can have 1,000 people coming into your web page, but between the web page and the database of business logic and the web server, I mean the database server, you need only one connection. Now, just think if you're paying for 1,000 connections to Oracle or some of the larger database companies, it'll cost you a lot of money. One connection hardly costs you anything. So people, I mean, CGI is a little older, but work with EDI, wherever you're working with. So you may have this common gateway interface. You'll have these beans, or you'll have ActiveX things, component model, COM, DCOM, various software is available. But all of these are troublesome because web vulnerability is very high. So maybe in another earlier class, I told you about the OWASP requirements for web security. If your company, anyway, most companies are web driven today, at least a few things will be web driven, which is enough for a disaster like email. You'll have a web page, you'll have an employee's login, self-service portal for applying for leave and so on. So all these will definitely cause severe problems. Now, the next thing is we have to also look at misconfigured firewalls. Firewalls not having the right rules. I told you, this good and bad traffic is set by humans. So what do humans do? They may block everything, allow a few things. It's called blacklisting, whitelisting. They take data from CERT, CERT, Computer Emergency Response Team. For India, it is the cert.in. They subscribe to them. Then they take data from Bloomberg or Reuters. All the known thieves, like a police station will have a list of thieves. So they take all those websites and say, okay, or URLs and say, okay, we're blocking them. They take types of services, they block them. But is that enough? It may not be, because there are a lot of services which piggyback on genuine services. Now that is a big problem. Now when services piggyback on something else, you'll think one type of service is coming, but actually some other type of service is actually coming on top of it. So how difficult or easy is it? It is difficult, but firewall rules have to be very, very comprehensive, and they have to be audited whenever the internal audit happens, quarterly or monthly, or you may have a monitoring software which checks daily. What we normally suggest is where companies are unable to speed up on this blocking bad traffic, you set up what is called a honey pot. Basically, it's another server where hackers think that's the genuine company server, they try to hack it. And all these addresses from outside which are causing trouble are taken and blocked in the real firewall. It's a long story, but that is, you set up a decoy, enticing bad traffic to come there, identify the source of the traffic and block it in your good systems. It costs money, but that's only known reliable way to solve this. Now, if you have hosts, host means computers, running all kinds of services. Now we have a lot of services which are run, which are not needed, because when the computer's OS is installed, we have a lot of software which you don't really require. Now, from the DNS looks up an English name, a web name, web location name, and converts it to an IP address. Why do all machines require it? Not necessary. One internal DNS will do. FTP is when you're copying files. One server is enough. All the other servers, the FTP can be disabled. RPC is a remote program calls. Today they call it RMI, remote method invocation. All of them are not going to handle remote methods. Maybe this machine may handle. So we don't need it here. So we'll have to identify all the unwanted services and switch them off. You'll have to recommend that in your report that they be turned off. Now, another part is when information is leaking out and it provides all the information about your system, like the OS version, the application is using, the database version, the shares. Now, how does all this information leak out? See, whenever an error is thrown, of course, the software writers wanted to make it clear, so they tell you what is wrong. It's like your gauges on your newer cars. It tells you a lot of things. It tells you like battery is low or air pressure is low, or it tells you a lot of things. The older machine cars don't tell you anything. So the old computers never told us anything. It'll simply crash. It'll say stack overflow, buffer overflow, or simply it'll crash. That's all. Then the programmers knew more or less what to do. But today we have lesser knowledgeable people running machines. So the manufacturers display a lot of information about what is wrong. A rough example is your dashboard on a new car. It tells you too much. So a thief who's able to get these error messages knows exactly what is happening, why it crashed, what version you're using, what vulnerabilities it's got, and he exploits it. Now, can we suppress this information? Yes, but it has to be done at the program level. So when you're doing your application controls and you're doing your application security controls audit, you'll have to do this. Otherwise, at the network security level, what we can do is let the software throw the error, but we'll suppress it before it moves out by filtering those messages. You can filter messages, filter strings, you can filter known signatures. Signatures means that pattern of characters. We can filter that and just send a customized message, unable to service now, instead of saying why you are unable to service. And then we have logs. And of course, today the government of India has made a lot of logs mandatory. The regulators have made a lot of logs mandatory. Company law, some logs are mandatory. Mirroring of the data is mandatory in India. And we have also certain logs which have to be mandatorily checked by the auditor. Not everything has to be checked, but only what we go by only what the company law says, very little. Regulators, they have more regulations on this, like IRDA, whatever, the TRAI, the RBI, and so on. Or we also have to work with this IT Act. They also say you must keep looking at log and signatures and other kind of information. In addition to that, this is legal, I mean, minimum compliance. In addition to that, the company may have more in their policies. That's okay. If there are more requirements, those logs are maintained. In fact, one of the challenges now will be the implementation of the audit trail in the accounting packages. And Tally still doesn't seem to come to the right solution as yet. So anyway, these are things which we have to look at. And if Tally doesn't have it, then a third-party plugin or software has to be put in. I'm just looking at one point, but logs can be for everything. I think we did this in one of our earlier classes, all the different logs from your system. So now if you look at this, this is what I've told you in a very brief manner. Various vulnerabilities which you can encounter in your system. So first we looked at a quick, a brief overview of the network, and then we found areas where things can go wrong. And these are the areas where the auditor has to make sure that he's plugged in those gaps and ensure that these things don't go wrong. So what I will do is I'll just switch the screen. Okay, I will now share the entire screen so that it's easy for me to work. Now, if you can see down here where I clicked on the start, I'm typing CMD, which is the short form for command. COMMAND. You can type the full command also. And I got this big, small black box. I'm just enlarging it. So this is called the command window. All Windows machines will have it, whether your desktop or PC, don't worry. Now, you type CMD in this box here, and then we should see this black thing. I just enlarge it a little bit so you can see the letters a little more clearly. Now, I'm just running through built-in commands. One of them is called ping. Now, when you type ping, you have to give it a name. So I'm just using the name of my own organization where I work. It's called cnkindia.com, but it should be a dot here. Only thing is, feel free to type whatever you want, but one of the complaints I get, not from auditors, but from students, when I take classes, they type address and start meddling around with other people's computers, so please don't do that. To be very frank with you, most of the systems on the internet are useless. I mean, they're all vulnerable. It's like our cars, homes, purses. If a purse is not picked, it doesn't mean that we are very secure. It just means you're in a safe locality or something like that. But the chance of getting picked is there all the time. So please be careful. The internet is not very secure. Don't break into anybody's computer. This is just for learning. I put my own company's name here, cnkindia.com. You can put ica.org, whatever, but don't meddle with anything. Okay, so now for instance, ping is called packet internet grouper. What it does is it sends packets to these machines and tells you whether the machine is there or not. So how do you know it's there? Because it said to send 4 packets. It got them back, didn't lose any packets. Your network is very good. And the round trip time in milliseconds, whatever it gave you. So this machine, cnkindia.com, is up and running. But if you put some other name, then obviously it will not be up and running. So it won't work. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the same thing with this IP address which we got here, this 162.241. That's the address of that machine which contains the domain name, the IP address, cnkindia.com. Now here I'm typing the same number because I know the address because the machine brought it back. Now here you will find after the ping is over, it has reached that machine, it has got it, there's no loss. So whether you try to the IP address, this 162 something, or you type the English address, it's called the URL, Universal Resource Locator, we got the answer, the machine is up and running. So when would you use ping as an auditor? You would use it whenever you need to know whether a machine is up and running, responding, whether it's there on the network. Sometimes people give a network diagram. How do you verify whether all those IPs are there? Ping them one by one. If they respond, if they are there, if they don't respond, the diagram is outdated or it's a fake diagram. Now, I just type the slash and question mark here out here, where you get all the options. Now, I'm not going through all the options, but those of you who wish to go deeper into this, please try this out as much as possible, all the options. You can get a lot of this from Google. The next command I'm going to is called ipconfig. Now this ipconfig, I'm putting slash and it's all is an option. Now what it tells me is that I have, this is a laptop I'm using, it's a Windows Phone 10. I'm working from home now, so it tells me that I have this laptop. My node type is hybrid. That means I can use the USB or I can use Wi-Fi. I don't have this wireless, I'm sorry, I don't have the network cable adapter. It's called an RJ45 jack. I don't have that. So it doesn't matter. So we have got whether IP routing is enabled, proxy enabled. No, it's not on a network, just a home computer. And if you see here, Ethernet adapter is disconnected. I don't have a network I can put a Cat5 cable or a Ethernet cable. That socket is missing. But the thing is, I've got the card. I don't have it now. If I buy an external socket, I can connect it USB to Ethernet or something. It's got a physical address. It's got a MAC address, but unfortunately, the media is not there. Then the wireless LAN adapter, there are 2 of them. I think there are 3 of them. Okay. One of them is active, the other 2 are inactive. Now, why are the other 2 inactive? Because in all your new machines, you'll have only one wireless receiver, but multiple devices will work. You put one receiver at the small black thing in your machine, USB port. Your keyboard and mouse, both are wireless, both do different things, but they can work on the same unit. So right here, that's what we have. So only this is enabled. These 2 are not enabled. You can enable them if you go to the card and right click, it will start working. I mean, and enable it. Okay, now these are all the settings of the card, and it tells you when your connection was obtained and what happens. So actually, I'm using an ACT connection. I'll show you that also. So everything is there, and the TCP/IP has been enabled. So we have got information about our cards, and as usual, if you want to see the all the options, it's again leave a space /& question mark, and a lot of options here. So you can see a huge set of options. You don't. My advice is not to meddle too much. You can download some. Lot of Google files are there. Download them, slowly understand them. Don't change settings, or if you're changing settings, note down the settings so you can put it back. Otherwise, you'll disable your card and then be wondering how to put it back. The service guys will come and charge you. Actually, nothing, it's just enable, disable. So this laptop has got a left a default name from D2JJ, whatever. So you can change it to whatever name you want. So host name is a simple command which just gives you the name of the host. There are no other options for it. Why do you need a host name? In case the user or the auditor feels a particular host they're cheating you because they're showing you ping and they're putting some address, they're not putting the URL. You're not convinced. You're kind of feeling that they've renamed a host. They've given two different names to the same host. It probably has the same IP or same MAC, and they're dodging you. Then if you simply type host name, if it doesn't come, it's not there. That's it. So you can find out. This is the host name of the machine on which you're working, or which you're connected to on the VPN. Okay. Then we have this thing which is called the get MAC. This gives you the physical address, that is a network card address. See, between the IP, which is 32-bit IP4, and your MAC address, which is it's 6. You'll have a 30 to 48 bits. Okay, 6 byte address. There are two different things. If I bind it on a MAC address and I change the computer, it won't work because it'll say I don't find this network card address on your machine. This is not the correct machine. But if I did not have the MAC address and I only bound to the IP address, I can put another machine and change the IP address. Of course, the IP config command we can use, we can change it, and the new machine will start working in the place of the old machine. That's what if thieves do it, we call it spoofing. So for instance, if you wanted to, okay, same thing now, let's say you want to analyze all these addresses. So I'm using F and 0, and then I'm using CSV, which stands for comma, space, comma separated files. I need to remove the space here. Okay, so when I do that, so what happens is I've changed it now to FO CSV. CSV is the common name. So what you'll get is the name, the title name, physical address, transport name, which you see as the headings here. Then this MAC address, the device IP address, etc. You can import this into Excel. Excel will take command input files or Power BI or any tool you're using. We got only 3 lines here, but if you have a lot of lines, you can definitely start analyzing them. So what I will do is if I just run the same command with a question mark, you can see all the options here. So you get a lot of options is get MAC, and what we used was this FOCSV. So these examples are also appearing on your system. Now I have another command called ARP, and I'm just typing a -a. It's address resolution protocol, and the RARP is the reverse address resolution protocol. What it does is it gets the MAC address of a host with a particular IP address. Now, if the IP address is given, now these are all the IP addresses. You can see they are 4 bytes. IP4 is 4 bytes, 32 bits. It actually there's a broadcast service, and if the IP address is called out in the network, whichever machine or configuration which has that IP will send its physical network address, which is 48-bit. So we are now mapping an IP address to a physical address. These two are called dynamic because they are coming from the router using a home router. So that's dynamic. Every time you switch on your router, it will bind to a new address. But what's inside the machine and all these network masks are static, which means we can't change them. But actually, if you pay more money to these network service providers, they can give a static address. If you get a static address, you can run a complete server out of your house or your office. I mean, it'll cost you more money, but now we'll look at another one called the NS lookup. Okay, now this command, NS lookup, is to troubleshoot all DNS related problems. So what I'm doing is I'm just taking three examples. First, we'll find the IP address of a host. Now I'm changing my example here to icai.org. It's an existing machine. We know it's there. So when you do that, now this server here, this XI of Quang, because I'm using an MI router, you get some Chinese name. But it doesn't matter. I mean, it depends what router you have. You may be using American, British, whatever the fellow supplied. So this is the name of your server means, because I don't have a server at home. The router is also it does three things. It's a modem, it's a DSL modem. It's also a router because it takes cables out of the back. It's also a wireless access point because it does the Wi-Fi. Right now I'm on the Wi-Fi. That address is 192.168.31.1. This is fixed. For me, this MI address is fixed. But the ICA.org, this is the IP address. What is a non-authoritative answer? If this ICA.org exists in the DNS cache, the DNS is not here. It's not in my house. It's with the ACT. Actually, it's called Kamai Technologies or whatever. So that's the name of the company. Anyway, whatever, the ACT is a popular service provider. Their server, somebody else has looked up the ACA.org. Maybe I did it some time back. It's already in the cache. Cache can hold entries up to 30 minutes. You can make it less also, but generally leave it as 30 minutes. So second time the same IP address comes, you don't look up the actual DNS, you can take it from the cache. Now if I repeat the same command, but I change this number to whatever it has returned, 54, 169, whatever, 194 and so on, you will find that it has returned your ICA.org. I gave the number, but it got the name. But now if I just show you the thing, the domain name of an IP address, or maybe I'll go to a more interesting thing to find the mail servers which a company is using. Maybe you're into audit and you're checking up whether these fellows are really telling you the truth or not. Now, query type and the MX is always for the mail server. And then I'm giving two different things. I'm starting with ICA.org. Now, see what you find is, okay, I left this, please. It's a bit sensitive on all these silly things like spaces and so on. Okay. Now, I've typed this without a space here. I made a mistake. Now the server this is my own server, my own router. But if you look at the ICA.org, they are using Google's mail facility. So it's shown up here. Now, if I change this to another company, say cnkindia.org, you will find that it's not able to find it when probably the server is not working. It's all Diwali holidays. It's okay, but actually it will show you a MS Exchange server because they're on Office 365. But that's okay. I mean, don't worry if I'm sorry. This
yes, sir.
Address is wrong.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah, I'll wind up.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So here you can see that you get this Outlook.com, which means you are now on an mail exchange from Microsoft. So what we notice is that there are a lot of commands built into your Windows, which will help a network security auditor do a lot of work. Of course, we can use outside tools, we can get toolboxes and so on, but this should take care of most of what we need to do. So I hope I have kind of explained whatever we need to. Okay, the point I want to make is when you're doing a network audit, you have enough tools built in the OS. This is a client. You can use a server OS. You can get more commands, and you can use them for your benefit. So with that, I'd like to thank the organizers, our host, and all the other speakers. And thank you for the time and the opportunity given.
Thank you, sir, for the valuable session on the security audit. I would like to thank you on behalf of Internal Audit Standard Board of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India.
Yes,
now we have with us C. Sonia Arora ma'am, chairperson of the Jalandhar branch of NIRC of ICAI, and I would like to invite her for their remarks on this virtual CPE meeting on behalf of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, Internal Audit Standards. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, Shalji. A very good evening to all. Firstly, I extend my gratitude to Internal Accounting Standard Board of ICAI for giving the Jalandhar branch this opportunity to be a part of this wonderful program. My hearty thanks to all the participants present over there, and my special regards to the eminent speaker, CA Dr. Paul Jaker sir, Deepika ma'am, and CA Sankar sir. So the topic discussed in today's webinar is the need of the hour. I think Jaker sir has rightly quoted, we need to know what we need to do. So the audit is indispensable. So I think the awareness regarding these topics is not only beneficial, that going to enhance our efficiency, but it's necessary to justify our audit task. So we have already enhanced our knowledge horizons from the deliberation of 1 star from the galaxy of intellectuals today. That is CA Dr. Paul Jaker deliberation. So now we are having 2 more star. So one thing I really want to add, your deliberation is very much stimulating and knowledge giving. So my special thanks to moderator CA Vijay Soni sir and the Internal Accounting Standard Board who designed program for the overall upliftment of all the profession. So thank you so much, sir, and thank you once again to the board.
Thank you, ma'am, for your valuable remarks for the our speakers and all the participants. And now I would like to invite CAS Deepika for the topic cyber security audit, and I would like to introduce her brief profile. So CAS Deepika is handling assignments involving audit analytics, exception reporting, application review, ERP remediation, information technology, and ITGC. And she's also handling internal financial control for banks, NBFCs, and manufacturing companies. She is also the special invitee to the Digital Accounting and Assurance Committee of SIRC of ICAI, and she is Joint Secretary of Women Committee of the Institute of Internal Auditors, Madras Chapter. She is also the faculty with SIRC of ICAI Information Technology Training, Advanced Information Technology Training also. She is also guest lecturer at various educational institutions and colleges in the topics of data analytics, blockchain technology, and IT audits and audit information. She is working with CNK and Associates from 2017 to now, and she is handling the audits in the areas of analytics, process controls, risk for large manufacturing, banking, and financial institutions. And she's a qualified chartered accountant, and she's an associate member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. And she's also have done diploma in information system audit and certified credit research analyst and PGP business intelligence and limited insolvency examination. So welcome, Deepika, on behalf of Internal Audit Standard Board of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India for today's virtual CPE meeting on the topic of cyber security audit, fundamentals of vulnerability assessments. So I would like to welcome you on behalf of ICAI Internal Audit Standard Board. Welcome you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you, Vijay, sir, for this wonderful introduction and wonderful opportunity. So with no further delay, we will go into the session. So today we are going to see what is cybersecurity audit, why it is required, and what as a chartered accountant we are expected to do. So that is going to be a brief agenda of today's session. So we will gain a basic understanding of what is vulnerability assessment, what is the role of audit of vulnerability assessment, what are the areas of vulnerability assessment. So before that, we have to go to a background of why vulnerability assessment is there and what is this. So basically, when we talk about IT or IS audit, information technology or information system audit, there are different categories of audit which an auditor can engage. So one can be the core IT review, where we are reviewing a particular ERP or a application or a product which is used by the client. So it can be a core IT audit where we are evaluating what the ERP is about, how the infrastructure is maintained, how the architecture is maintained, how the workflow is configured, all that. So second important area where auditors play a critical role is cybersecurity audits. So in cybersecurity audit, what we are doing is vulnerability assessment and penetration testing. So that is, we are trying to do risk assessment, like how in an internal audit, we do risk assessment to evaluate what can go wrong. Vulnerability assessment is a similar perspective where we are trying to evaluate in my client, in my organization, the way I am interacting with the public internet, how my intranet is located or how it is set up, how much I am vulnerable for a IT attack. It can be a cyber threat, it can be a virus, it can be a malware, or it can be a pure intruder, social engineering intruder who is trying to get access to my data or database. So I'm going to assess the vulnerability in relation to cyber security and information security. So penetration testing is I'm going to become a hacker sort of, but with the permission of the client, almost like a ethical hacking. I'm not just assessing the vulnerability, I'm going and knocking the doors of vulnerability and seeing whether an intruder can come inside using that vulnerability. So VAPT, so this is what commonly we are referring as VAPT, vulnerability assessment and penetration testing. So vulnerability assessment can be equated to a risk assessment engagement, what we do in internal audit, and penetration testing can be equated to operational effectiveness testing, which we do in internal audit, where we are doing data analytics, where we are doing sample analysis, where we are doing any gap analysis, and then identifying a control lapse. So that control lapse, when we do it on information security, we call it penetration testing or pen test. Okay, so this is the second area. So these all are actually different areas requiring different expertise. All these 5 areas are different areas requiring different expertise, but invariably an audit firm or an auditor is involved in all these areas. So next we have regulatory compliance related ITIS audits, where we have RBI, SEBI, NHB guidelines, IRDA guidelines related compliances, where it's a assurance service basis an IT audit which we are doing. So whenever there's a business change, they do a tech diligence for IPR evaluation, the application scalability evaluation. So that is also an important place where auditors play a very crucial role. So then normal, our assurance compliances will also require IT role, where we are evaluating IT general controls for IFC testing or SOC testing. So these are all the different roles. So in this, what we are going to see today is the cyber security or information security. So this is the part we are going to handle today. And in that also, we are going to see only vulnerability assessment. So we will try to gain a fundamental walkthrough of what it is, what it can do, and how we can play an important role in this. So I have created a small this threat map, so small clipping. So I'll just show you the live threat map. So I'm in threatmap.checkpoint.com. It's a portal which monitors different cyber attacks that is happening in the globe, around the globe on a real-time basis. So this is actually a real-time evaluation of different attacks that are going currently. So all the red lines are malwares, okay, purple lines are phishing, and yellow are exploits. So all these are actually attacks that are made. It is not essential that this attack was successful. Okay, so they will look for a vulnerability, they will try to attack, but if it is successful, then your systems crash, your data loss will be there, or your without your knowledge, there's some spyware which is put into your system. So that is possible. But this is actually only the status of an attack. So how they are able to identify whether there's an attack or not, which country it's originating. So they have readers where we are already identified this viruses, malwares, phishing attacks, signatures are maintained. Okay, something like a directory. Okay, basis which actually the application will keep evaluating whether that particular signature is originating from where. So depending on where it originates, how they are able to identify through IP address, they will be able to identify location. Okay, so like that, they are able to draw this real-time map of what attacks are happening in which places. Okay, so now what is this attack telling us? So I'm just going back to my PPT. What this attack is telling us, there is a threat. Okay, whether we can control the threat. So the attack keeps happening. Okay, attack keeps happening. But whether you are going to lose information, whether you are going to lose data, whether you are going to lose your organization's critical IT infrastructure is actually depending on the control environment we have. So can we control threat? We cannot control threat, but we can ensure that our systems are not vulnerable. Okay. So let's take an analogy of a house. So a house per se has many threats. Like anytime a fire can happen, anytime a thief can come in, someone can break our window. So these are all threats which is beyond my control. I cannot, let's say a flood. A flood is beyond my control, right? I cannot actually go and say that that threat cannot happen. The threat will be there, but I have to ensure my house is safeguarded from any threat that happens. So all known threats, I can surely safeguard 100%. Like let's say flood is a threat. I can stay in second floor, third floor to ensure that my house is not affected by flood. Okay. Let's say fire is a threat. So I can ensure that I have a fire extinguisher. I have fireproof vault, ceilings, house, something I can do, right? I can control it. Now let's say thief. Thief is a wide threat. I don't know how he could break in. So first level control will be having a gate, having a lock, having a watchman, having a surveillance system, having some motion detectors. So these are all controls, right? So if my system, my house is not having a lock, then I'm leaving a vulnerability open where a threat can come and exploit. Okay. The same thing will apply for an organization where I have systems. Let's say I have a server. I don't have a firewall. What happens? So when I don't have a firewall, what happens? Automatically, even bad traffics will come into my organization. Okay. Like let's say this is my server. Actually, this is having my firewall also. For the time being, let's say like part of this, I have my server also. Okay. And my systems, my computing systems are connecting to the internet. So if I don't have this firewall in place, even the bad traffic which comes will easily penetrate into my organization. It may corrupt my computing system. It may steal data. Okay. There can be different scenarios that can happen. But provided I have a control, I am ensuring that this vulnerability is addressed. Okay. So there are different types of cyber threats that are existent. So there are malwares, web application attacks, plain spamming, social engineering, insider threat, data breach. Internal data breach is also possible, where even my legitimate users are stealing data. Okay, physical manipulation or vandalism, data theft, data loss, damage. Okay, ransomware, information leak, phishing attacks, denial of service attacks. So all these attacks we would have heard at different levels at different places. All these are always prevalent. The thing is, we have to ensure that we have controls. So for that, what audit procedure we do is called as vulnerability assessment. Okay, so when threat exploits and vulnerability, then we call it as an attack. Okay, when threat exploits and vulnerability, then we call it as an attack. So recently, if you see, many organizations are getting ransomware attack. So we'll see that also, how it happens and why it happens. So first we will understand, I think now we have set the context on why vulnerability assessment is important and what is it doing. So it is basically an health check. So you know different threats that are available or which is exposed. Okay, I know the threats which I am exposed to in a public network, when I'm having a portal, when I'm having a web server, when I'm having a client server infrastructure. So I know what all threats I'm exposed to. For that threats, I will ensure my controls are in place. Okay, so that my system is not vulnerable to a threat. Okay, so this is an example of a firewall, where by having a firewall, I will be able to ensure that I am routing traffic which is not legitimate outside, and only legitimate authenticated traffic is allowed inside my network. So what firewall does, even Paul sir had given an overview of how firewall is configured for rules. So firewall, we can configure for which all IPs to allow, which all IPs not to allow, which all data points I should monitor. Like how am I going to do that? The firewall is also an application. Okay, it is a tool which comes with pre-built rules also, and I can do my own rules also. Like let's say in your organization, you want to block all social media sites. So now there is, if you're going for a firewall product, there's no necessity like you have to choose Facebook's IP separately, Instagram's IP separately, TikTok's IP separately, not required. Firewall already will come with grouped IPs where you can decide. So all social media block, I can select the rule and apply it in my firewall. So any traffic to social media sites, it will not allow. E-commerce sites, newspapers, then print, digital media. Then we have so many different groups of sites which are like public domain emails. So like that, we have different areas which we may or may not want our organization employees to see. So that we can configure. So there again, there are different ways. Like whether so whatever we are discussing now is called blacklisting. Blacklisting means I am identifying what all my employees should not see, or what all will expose my network to greater threat. Okay, so basis that I am doing this, blacklisting. The other one is there where I will by default block any traffic that comes from outside, and I will whitelist and allow only legitimate players. Okay, I will allow only legitimate players. So I will define in my firewall, person 1, this IP, please allow. Person 2, this IP, please allow. So if you see our very high secured critical IT infrastructures, like for banks, insurance companies, regulators, okay, they work on this aspect where we do whitelisting. Okay, by default, all traffic to these high secure networks are blocked. Only if you are a legitimate person, there is an escalation that happens within the information security team, basis which you will have approval to access the particular organization's network. Okay, so other than the high secured environment, if you take normal manufacturing companies, smaller firms which don't deal with direct public money, etc. We work with plain blacklisting, wherein I am not going for further what you called too much. I am not going. By default, I am just trying to block certain things which will create threat. Okay, so that is the work of firewall. So what I'm doing here, I'm assessing, I'm identifying a vulnerability and I'm putting a control for it. Okay, so now this is like a predefined control. So we are going to see what other type of controls are possible. So as I told you in vulnerability assessment, now if you see, firewall is coming with predefined rules. Right, it is coming with predefined IPs where it is having the intelligence to read IPs and decide whether it should block or not based on some algorithm and rule engine which is inbuilt in the firewall. So depending on the product which you are subscribing, you will be having these facilities, right? So in simple terms, I can say vulnerability assessment is also tool based. It is not necessary that we have to do one by one IP filtering where we are looking at each port, where we are looking at each IP. That is not required. Currently, we have a lot of tools which assist us in doing this, and it throws exception reports. Okay, basis this exception reports, we can actually evaluate results and then go and see whether what type of controls we have is adequate or not. So what is the difference between vulnerability assessment and penetration testing? In vulnerability assessment, I know my threats. I'm looking for whether I have adequate controls or not. Okay. Vulnerability assessment is, I know already what threats, what are the controls are required, and then I look at whether controls are there or not, only availability. Okay. In penetration testing, what we are doing is we are actually going inside. We are trying to break open the lock and trying to penetrate inside the organization. Okay. Here we are only looking at things. Okay. But here I'm seeing whether all the locks are proper, whether it has adequate control, how many keys are there, am I able to get a key through a social engineering where I'm just talking to some employees and getting some password, and whether I'm able to intrude into the system. Okay, so pen test or penetration testing is equivalent to ethical hacking. Okay, ethical hacking. What we are doing here, we are doing we are trying to break into a system, but with the consent of the organization. Then you call it ethical hacking. If you are trying to do it for your personal good, then you are called as a hacker. Okay, with malicious intent, when you do, it is a hacking. When you do it for the organization as a health check exercise where you are trying to penetrate into an organization through their information systems and security systems, then it is called as ethical hacking. Okay, so vulnerability assessment is more like risk assessment. Okay, so now let's see one example with our mailbox. Let's assess the threats which our email boxes access to. Okay, so email has different components, right? So we have a sender ID. Okay, sender is there. Sender has a ID. So now we have to know whether the person is a legitimate sender or is he doing a social engineering, whether he is really a known person to the organization or not. So that first level of control which we need is identifying from whom, if I receive mail, it should come into my inbox. Okay, that is the first primary aspect. So it is possible that there is a very common, very well-known fraud of one large petroleum company where they tried to use, let's say the name was ABCD. Okay, the person, okay, the intruder, the malicious person, he created a similar domain and called it ABDC. Okay, same person name, same designation, same type of email, but the domain had a slight difference in the spelling. Okay, and when this mail came from this domain, actually the company did not know that There was a small change in the domain name. They thought it is a legitimate customer and they transferred hundreds of millions to that account to settle a transaction. Okay, but then later they found out that the money transfer they made was for a malicious account. Okay, the mail which came was this only. We identified that this POs are outstanding, and we want to intimate that we have changed our bank account to this. So I kindly request you to transfer settle these POs against this bank account number. So this was the instructions that came in the mail, which was from all legitimate names. Everything seemed very fine, but actually it was a malicious intruder who tried to scoop money. And actually this company paid the money also. It was an Indian company only, paid the money, but it was a fraudulent recipient who had actually received that money. Okay, so the ID level itself, we have to be very, very sure what type of controls we need to put, whether you can receive mail from everyone, what all should be spammed, what all should come to your inbox. That is the first level. So next, let's go to subject line. Okay, next level is subject line. So in subject line also, there could be lot of malicious things that are coming. Like for example, the logo. Okay, it comes as if it is for a particular reason. It comes with the name, let's say Amazon, but that ID wouldn't have registered for Amazon itself, but it will come like you have a voucher, you try to use this, or you have this one-time offer. So many offers, spam mails actually keep coming where they put some attractive subject lines which are not actually legitimate. Okay, they are not actually behalf of legitimate person. So next, the content of the mail. So content of the mail also is very important, like the logos, images they use. Let's say they use a bit.ly link. Okay, so the inline message says it's Amazon, it says it's a offer and it is for you, special, expires in 4 hours, and you have a bit.ly link. So you don't know actually where this link is going to take you to. Let's say inline mail also, they have a link in Amazon thumbnail or image. So there also we will have the same difficulty, like because we don't know that inline link where it is going to take you, whether it's to a phishing site or it is to a legitimate site. Is it to a phishing bank portal or a real bank portal? Okay, so these are all like a very critical thing. So this IP masking, though we do for our convenience, the link masking, whatever we do, URL masking, it actually leads to a cybersecurity threat also. It is possible some malicious people are using this for attracting traffic to their sites. Okay, so then the attachments. So there again, you have a lot of threats which we can be exposed to. So the attachment which comes from an unknown person or a known person also, it is possible it contains a malware or a virus or a any spamming or spyware. It is possible, right? So these are all important parameters which we have to do. So only we have to put in some email filters or email monitoring tool, wherein we are trying to review the mail, what mail comes to inbox, what mail goes to spam. All this whitelisting, blacklisting, similar to what we do in firewall, same or similar activity should be done in our tool also. Okay, to ensure that in our mail filtering tool also, to ensure that we are not exposing ourselves to any threat. So now let's say you first should have an antivirus. So what is antivirus? Antivirus is again a tool which is going to contain signature of all the viruses that are so far identified and are active. Okay, so every time your mail is scanned for antivirus, okay, virus, it means that it is going and referring to all the dictionary of viruses that are listed in the particular tool. So these are the things possible. You can get a spam, you can get a virus, you can get a malware, but your traffic when in your organization, it will pass through a antivirus. then it will pass through a spam filter. Okay, for both you have a separate quarantining system. Okay, wherein all suspicious or malicious mails are quarantined for a specific period of time. It will not be there forever. It could be for, let's say, 10 days or 15 days or 30 days, however we have configured. So after these two, only if it's a legitimate mail, okay, it passes through all this, then this green arrow works and it goes to your local mail exchange or your organization's mail exchange. Otherwise, it will be in quarantine mail. So here you can access and review whether it is really legitimate, not legitimate, and then you can decide whether it should be moved into your inbox or not. So this is a simple system where we are actually assessing a vulnerability. Okay, so these are the vulnerabilities threats we identified. Okay, for these threats, we are trying to implement a control. If these controls are there, then the threat cannot be materialized. But if the control is not there, then your system is vulnerable for attacks. Okay, so the whole concept of vulnerability assessment is going to be at different levels. Okay, so one is like firewall antivirus level, where we are talking about transactions which are facing my internet. Okay, this is my network. Okay, where I'm talking about inbound traffic, outbound traffic, through my mail, website, portals, payment gateways, all that is my first layer of vulnerability assessment, which I have to do. So this is the place I will evaluate my mailbox security. I will evaluate my portal security. I will evaluate my encryption in my portal. I will evaluate my VPN. Okay, all these are controls which I have to evaluate when I'm doing vulnerability assessment for network. The same thing we have to do for that is the same control assessment we have to do for operating system. So this is the servers, actually my core servers, where my applications and my clients are hosted and are accessing my systems. Then at application level, that is a particular product level. In a server, you may have multiple products, right? So each product level, you have to look at what type of vulnerabilities the product is exposed to. So each product will have a database. Okay, so database is a separate tool. Let's say SAP is the application. Okay, MySQL could be the database. SAP is an application. HANA could be a database. Okay, so like that, we have to do vulnerability assessment at a database level, application level, operating system level, and network level. So the most commonly spoken about vulnerability assessment is at network level. But if you take a proper information security infrastructure, okay, information security infrastructure, then it is at all 4 layers. You have to do vulnerability assessment. So what is the process of vulnerability assessment? So we have first vulnerability identification. So as I told you, at network layer, let's say I am an e-commerce service provider. What all network layer I have? Okay, let's say I'm a manufacturing company. At network layer, what all I have? So first I have to see how my client or how my employees communicate to my server. So that will be client server architecture. That is my first layer of internet network. Next, how my employees communicate to the vendors and suppliers. That is my second layer of network. Then let's say I have a payment gateway portal. Okay, how am I securing it? And fourth, I can say my mailbox. Okay, then if I'm going to transfer data with any of my vendors or suppliers, like backward integration or forward integration, so that place also I will have network vulnerabilities. So I have to ensure how my data at rest is protected, how my data in movement is protected, what level of encryption I have at which layer. Okay, so all these will be my parameters when I'm doing network assessment for a manufacturing company. So similarly, that is my first stage. Okay, but that is identifying vulnerabilities. Then I'm going to analyze what type of control is required, what is the probability of the threat being materialized into an attack for this vulnerability. Okay, then I do a risk assessment. What is the probability and what will be the impact of the probability? So if something happens, what will be the impact? Okay, on my business, on my data, on my customers, all that will be in my risk assessment. So next is my remediation. So remediation is how I'm going to resolve it. So this is my process of doing a VA assessment, vulnerability assessment. So this is so we spoke about your OS application database, right? So to show that, I have inserted a small chart. So excuse me. So this is the front end. So here you may have a portal. Okay. So this will be your server. Okay. You have your application which is hosted in the server. Okay. And then you have your database. So now directly an intruder can attack my database. Directly an intruder can navigate to my database. He can directly come to my application. Okay. He can come to my front end portal. So all areas I need to evaluate for VA. So that is the objective. So at operating system level, it can be relating to patches, updates. It can be due to remote access. It may be due to VPN or TeamViewer, AnyDesk. So peer-to-peer file sharing. So when you are doing some web transfer of data, it can be due to that if you are not having SFTP line or MFTP line. So that could be a vulnerability. So ransomware attack is a very common example for OS vulnerability. So if you see that most of the ransomware attacks which had happened are due to Windows or operating system patch update not being up to date. So if you are having like system update and you are going on postponing the system update and not upgrading to the latest one, okay, it is possible that because every patch or every release that comes in, they are trying to actually solve some bugs or reduce some vulnerabilities which are there in the system. So if you are not upgrading at all, still you are having Windows 7, it is possible that your system could be attacked. Okay, so one of the most common example is ransomware attack. So next is vulnerabilities at a database level. So database level, it is mainly on plain text saving data. So this is data at rest. So how are you saving the data at rest? So what is the access control you are giving for your database? Whether your data is saved in plain text, how you are isolating critical information. Okay, so let's say a normal information you keep unencrypted plain text, fine. But let's talk about a very critical information, password information, bank account information. So that and all you can isolate the data and try to encrypt it or have a higher level of control. So data compromise is the main risk or main vulnerability in our database thing. So next we have vulnerabilities in application. So in application we have broken authentication. That is, let's say a session hijack. You logged into your bank's system and you left the screen after logging in. It is possible your unattended screen can be misused by a hacker who is trying to hijack your session and execute the transaction on behalf of you as if it was a legitimate transaction. Okay, so then we have cross-site scripting, SQL injection, where we are actually doing directly doing a cross-site scripting and defacing your site, okay, with some other site. Okay, so all this is the vulnerabilities which you have at application level. Okay, so this is very common. We have faced even denial of service attack is one of the network threat actually, where you are trying to log in and let's say it opens at 10. By 10:05, nobody gets any ticket, but the system is down. Okay, so these things are all actually due to vulnerabilities which are not addressed. So for these, for evaluating this, like for example, like how for auditing of financial statements, we have accounting standards or auditing standards. okay, in place. So we have accounting standards for preparing financial statements. We have auditing standards for auditing financial statements. So similarly, we have frameworks for evaluating the cybersecurity threats also. So these are the most prominent frameworks available. So we have Cyber Security Infrastructure Security Agency of US, which is giving us lot of threat feeds on what are the controls you should have in an organization. Okay, then we have OWASP standards, which is going to give us framework for vulnerability assessment. And then we have CERT in. So CERT is US entity. Okay, we have CERT US, that is Cyber Security Emergency Team. Okay, so similar to that, we have CERT in, which is CERT India. Okay, so which is also giving us best practices on what are the controls we have to evaluate and cyber security front. Okay, so this is the broad fundamentals which we need to understand on what are the frameworks which we have to know, which if we want to do a vulnerability assessment, then at what all layers we need to cover our scope if we are doing a cybersecurity vulnerability assessment, and basically what is that we are trying to execute. So most important thing is all are going to be tool based. Okay, so vulnerability assessment tools are set of commands designed to automatically scan for a new or an existing threat on a target application. Okay, so as I told you, it's going to be tool based, where you are going to run tools for different tests. So let's say a third party product in your device or a third party tool in your application. So what you can do is you can run a specific tool for evaluating whether there is a system which is not part of my network in my network, whether there is a IP which is not part of my server in my server. So like that, I have specific tools. So some prominent tools are Nessus, Nmap, Wireshark. Then we have Kali Linux, suite of tools. Actually, Kali Linux is a suite of tools. Nessus also is a suite of tools, where you have like more than 500, 600 tools inbuilt. Each tool will do a specific task, and our work will be to run the specific tool on the specific environment and get the output and evaluate whether the exceptions it is throwing is correct or not, and what are the remediation that we need to do. Okay, so that's the work we will be doing. So this assessment is done by tool. This remediation, we should know the network, we should know the system infrastructure, basis which we are going to advise our clients on remediation. Okay, so I think with this we will close this session for today. Yes, sir. Over to you.
Thank you, Deepika, for this important session on the topic cyber security audit, fundamentals of vulnerability assessment. So I think it will help a lot of people for the internal audit assignments for the in cyber security audit. Now, I would like to invite CAT Shankar sir on the topic role of internal audit in risk management, with special emphasis on strategic risk management. And I would like to briefly introduce his profile. That CAT Shankar sir is a partner in internal audit, governance and risk since 2014 in a leading chartered accountant firm in Mumbai. Graduate in science from Calcutta University with major in physics, chemistry and mathematics. He is a fellow member of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India and a member of Institute of Internal Auditors of Mumbai chapter. CAT Shankar sir is having experience of more than 35 years, who has been involved in setting up robust audit practices, control and system and procedures in the various organizations like Greaves, Orson, Nihon, Premier Automobiles, Fiat and Blue Star Now he is associated with KS Iyer and Company. He was the chief internal auditor in Premier Automobiles, Fiat, and Blue Star for nearly 2 decades. T. Shankar sir is having specialization in the areas for the industry in manufacturing audit, project audit, product audit, service audit, compliance audit, accounts and finance audit, enterprises risk management, internal financial controls, investigations and due diligence audits. He is also a lawyer and he is a member of Lawyers International, and he is very active in both club level and district level. And he was the district cabinet treasurer in 2007 to 2008 in managing 105 clubs. So welcome you, sir, on behalf of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, on behalf of Internal Audit Standard Boards of ICAI. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. At the outset, I thank the Internal Audit Standard Board of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India and the Jalandhar branch of Northern Region. Today, I will be talking more on the practical experience which I have done in my last more than 3 decades. And I will not be showing more theoretical. Now, when we talk of strategy risk, the first thing which comes to my mind is on March 23rd, 2020, when the central government did the lockdown. Why they did the lockdown? They thought human life is far more important than economy. So they did a lockdown. That was an excellent strategy. Had they not done the lockdown, what would happen? Today, whatever death has happened, 10 times the death would have happened. That was an excellent strategy. And during that time, each one has to do their own strategy. Like in schools, what they did, online teaching, asynchronous teaching, learning process change. To teach an online teaching for a 9th and 10th class is quite easy. But to teach a junior KG and senior KG is not so easy. But our teachers did excellent way of online teaching. University and school board exam, they also did the strategy. Some university and school board postponed the exam. Some university and school board, based on the last year marks, they passed their students. Business activities, no doubt, business activity came down. But after some time, each one did their own strategy. The IT department, they're working from home, and as if nothing has happened. The finance department, the accounts department, marketing department, each one started doing the work. Board meeting and AGM. Yes, I have myself attended number of online meetings after the COVID. And all the board meeting and audit committee meeting, it was done by online meeting and went very smoothly. Excellent way of conducting meeting. AGM. Can you imagine all the AGM today are done by virtual meeting? Most of it. Last year on 15 July, Reliance did an excellent strategy of introducing Geo application. That AGM, 3 lakh shareholders from 41 countries attended. What a way of launching a Geo. Social entertainment. Yes, during the lockdown, we're all cut off from our friends, our relatives and everything. But slowly we came out and we started social entertainment through online, birthday. Even I attended a wedding, sitting from Bombay, attended my very close friend's relative's wedding in Chennai, Delhi. Now, when you talk of risk, what is a risk? Risk is a part of everyday life, and the same is true for risk in organization. Pretty much every aspect of business contains risk. If someone comes and tells that in my business there's no risk, he is just bluffing. All business contain risk. In some companies, the risk may be low. Some companies, risk may be high. Even my firm, Case and Company, we have a risk. We may lose some clients. Every decision you make holds a risk. The key is knowing how to do business in a way that protects you and allows you to manage business risk successfully. What is the definition of risk? Risk is in any event or a non-event, the occurrence or a non-occurrence of which can adversely affect the objectives or existence of the company. This threat may be internal, external to the company, or may not be directly influenced by the company, and may arise out of the routine or non-routine action of the company. Perspective risk. Yes, company needs to take risk to create value and manage risk to protect value. Let me tell you honest, whichever company do not take risk, they can never create value. Warren Buffett says, risk comes from not knowing what you are doing. Robert N. Sherita says, risk management is not about future decision, but about the future of decision that we must take now. Here, I'll just give one simple example just to lighten the session. Whenever I address any seminar, the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India or Cost Accountants of India or MBA or any professional body, I ask the participant, what do you perceive as risk? Each one says production risk, market risk, job risk, employment risk. Student says that he said examination passing risk. I tell all of them, all this risk can be easily mitigated. If it is job risk, if you lose a job, you will get another job, may not be same salary, but with slightly lesser salary you will get. If you fail an exam, you can write next time and pass exam. But knowingly or unknowingly, some of us have taken risk, some of us will be taking risk, and that's a marriage risk. And India is not a country. Today we get married, after 6 months, like you say, we get divorced. Our marriage is all lifelong. Not a few cases of divorce takes place. And if we can take that risk, production risk, job risk, marketing risk, all this risk can be easily mitigated. Now, I would like to say certain risk management topic through an online WhatsApp message I got it. I thought through that I will explain the risk management. There was a bank robbery. The robber shouted to everyone, all don't move. Money belongs to state. Life belongs to you. Yes, a mind-changing concept. Change the conventional way of thinking. Yes, when you are doing a risk management or a strategic risk management, change the concept. Don't wear a hat of internal auditor, wear a hat of operation person. Then only you can do a risk management audit. Everyone in the bank lay down quietly. One lady lay on the table proactively. The robber shouted at her, please be civilized. This is robbery, not an assault. Be professional. Focus only on what you are trained to do. Yes. Whenever you do a risk management audit, focus what you know very good. Don't do areas which you are not expert. Take the expert, like some technical aspect. You take the expert of a technical person. You yourself do not suggest or do a risk process audit. Yes. When the robbers got back, the younger robber, MBA trained, told the older robber, who is only a primary school educated, big bro, let's count how much we got. The older robber rebuked and said, you are very stupid. So much money, how to count? Tonight TV will tell us how much we robbed from the bank. Experience is more important than paper qualification. Yes, my friends, nothing can match experience. And when you discuss a risk management, you may discuss with the president, vice president, but always don't forget to discuss with people down the line. He may be a worker, he may be an ordinary officer. If you have 25 years of service, he knows a lot of things about risk management. Here, I will give a live experience of what is experience counts. Few years before, when I was heading a audit department of a giant company of more than 6,000 crore, one young chartered accountant, a brilliant chartered accountant with both the groups in first attempt, both intern and final, he was in first 50 ranks. He joined our organization. For a long time, we had not done a corporate audit accounts. So I thought of giving him corporate audit accounts. So I told, his name was Vijay. Vijay, why don't you do a corporate accounts audit with an experienced person, Arun, and come out with a lot of good points. Vijay, who is a qualified, he told me, sir, I would definitely do it, but I like to do alone. I don't want the help of Arun. Seeing his enthusiasm, I allowed him to do audit. After a month audit, he came out with small routine points, process improvement, some control improvement, some authority level. No major point came. But somehow my gut feeling told that he has not done a good job, because for a number of years, we have not done a corporate accounts audit. And this kind of routine observation, I was not happy. Anyway, I told him thank you. Then I called Arun, who is an experienced person who has worked in the same organization more than 25 years, and he was thorough in internal audit, taxation, both direct and indirect taxation. I asked him, Arun, I want you to do a re-audit of this corporate accounts. He told me, sir, I don't mind doing the re-audit, but CFO will get furious because we are doing a re-audit. I told Arun, don't worry, I'll go and talk to CFO. So I went and met the CFO. CFO initially was very furious. Shankar, since you have not found anything, you want to do a re-audit. Told, sir, my person Vijay has not done a proper job, but this time Arun will do a proper job. I request you to give me a re-audit. Luckily for me, the CFO had a very high opinion on me and my gut feeling, and also he knows I'm very close to Chairman MD. He allowed to do a re-audit. And during the re-audit, after 15 days of re-audit, Arun came to me and told me, sir, I found two important points. I told what? One important point was guarantee charges what National Bank is charging. As per letter, they are supposed to charge 0.5%, but they are charging 0.80%. And nearly they are charged extra by 20 lakhs. He showed me letter also, and he showed that they are charged 0.80%. The second point, he told me, sir, the bank guarantee charges all are debited with service tax, whereas these are all service tax inclusive they are done, and our account department were not aware, so they are not taken input credit. And I went into the bank, and bank also told they are debited with the service tax, and for 2 years it comes to 80 lakhs. And luckily for us, that time service tax input credit do not get lapsed. We can take the service tax input credit. And so I went and along with Arun, I met the CFO and appraised him. CFO was shocked to hear, but CFO was kind enough, and he told me, Shankar, your people found it excellent. So you took up to the bank and got the 20 lakhs refund for the guarantee charge, extra charge. And you took 2 years of input credit of 90 lakhs. Nearly because of experience, we got 1 crore 10 lakhs of profit to the organization. That is why never underestimate the experience. Yes. Next is swim with the tide. Convert an unfavorable situation to your advantage. After the robbers left, the bank manager told the bank supervisor, call the police quickly. Supervisor says, wait. Let's put the 5 million RMB we embezzled into the amount the robbers robbed. Let me tell you, we may get a lot of time unfavorable situation, but we should convert the advantage. Here also, I would like to give an example. Few years before, I wanted to do a spare parts warehouse audit, which is managed by outsource agency. I called 3 chartered accountants. I told them, tomorrow, all 3 of you are doing a warehouse spare parts physical verification audit in the month of February. He told, sir, we are chartered accountant. These jobs are all BCom, SLC, high secondary jobs, sir. Why do you want us to do audit? I told, don't underestimate physical verification of spare parts stock and everything. I will also come with you. I'll show you. You can have a lot of value addition. I went with them. So I asked the warehouse that gave me top 20 items, item-wise value, and top 20 item, quantity-wise value, high values. Then while doing the physical verification, I found one item which was kept in the cupboard, a small item, which was costing 20 lakhs. But in my gut feeling says, this item should not cost more than 5,000 rupees. I asked the warehouse in charge, is the item 20 lakhs? He told, sir, I do not know. The warehouse, which is run by our company, Vice President Material, spare parts and material, he says it's a very costly item, so I kept it. It's a 20 lakhs item, he says. So, okay. Then, while doing it, I saw one plastic board, a yellow plastic board. If you go on the site, you'll see a yellow plastic board, Men at Work, and a company logo. That plastic board, we have purchased 4,000, which was lying in the warehouse. Normally, we give to dealers free of cost, 20, 30, to all the dealers, which they work at site. And that was costing 3,500. But my gut feeling says this should not cost more than 300, 350 rupees. So I thought I will take one plastic board in my name. Luckily for me, at that time we had authority as internal audit head. I can take up till 50,000 rupees item and debited my account. So this was 3,500 rupees item. I took it. Next day, I went to plant R&D president and showed the part of 20 lakh part. I told him this is a part number. What is the cost of this part? He told Shankar, this part is not the main part. This is a spare parts of the main part. The main part costs 20 to 22 lakhs. This is a spare parts. Now I understood the modality. The main part is already gone. The spare part is just kept for sake of keeping it. So 20 lakhs already siphoned out. Then with my friend who knows a plastic dealer, I went to the plastic dealer. I told him I wanted to do this kind of board, yellow board with the company's logo, 4,000 rupees. What will be the cost? He told, since you want 4,000 board, I can give you at 325 rupees per board. So it comes to around 13 lakhs. I told, can you give me in writing? He gave me in writing, stating that 4,000 board at 325 rupees. Next day, I met the chairman MD and appraised the chairman MD about this too. Chairman MD was shocked because the person whom I'm complaining, Vice President Spare Parts, he has got twice the VP of the Year award. Actually, he was on leave for 1 week. So he told me, Shankar, I'm really surprised and shocked. Now, what is the next step? I told, sir, the 20 lakhs money, the machine parts, we will not get it. But the plastic board dealer, I'll call the vendor along with CFO and security head. I'll do the interrogation. And if in case he does not agree, I will tell him that we will hand over to police and definitely we will get the information and he will accept. So along with CFO and security head, I call the vendor. The vendor initially say, no, they cost 3,500. And I showed the another person, plastic vendor's quote, and he saw it. Then I told, if you don't agree, we'll hand over to police. He finally agreed with me. The cost is around 320 rupees, but your VP material, spare parts material told me, bill at 3,500, balance give me by cash. Luckily for us, at that time, the vendor's outstanding balance was 1 crore. We are not paid him. So we took a writing from him. And next day, after 1 week, when the VP came, we interrogated him, but he did not accept it. But finally, we sacked him. By this ordinary advantage, physical verification, we were able to save the corporate company nearly 1 crore 26 lakhs, plus the 20 lakh damage done, which we were able to identify. Next is the super says it will be good if there's a robbery every month. Yes, happiness is the most important. If you feel risk management, strategic risk, it gives immense happiness. You should do the risk management and strategic risk. The next day, TV news reported that 100 million RMB was taken from the bank. The robbers counted, but they could only count 20 million RMB. The robbers were very angry and complained. We risked our lives and only took 20 million RMB. The bank manager took 80 million RMB with a snap of his finger. It looks like it's better to educate than to be a thief. Knowledge is worth as much as gold. Friends, here I'm telling knowledge is much gold. Because all of you are CA, they will be knowledgeable. I'm not talking of the subject knowledge. I'm talking of the business knowledge. If you're doing risk management on steel industry, you should have thorough knowledge of steel industry. If you're doing a cement industry, risk management, strategic risk, you should have thorough knowledge of the cement industry. Same is a pharmaceutical industry. Whichever industry you're doing, you should have thorough knowledge. Bank manager was smiling and happy because the loss in the share are now covered by robbery. Seize the opportunity and dare to take risk. Yes, whenever you get an opportunity to do risk management strategy risk, please do not say we are not capable. Seize the opportunity and do it, and we can do a wonderful job. There are 7 key business risks: physical risk, strategic risk, compliance regulatory risk, operation human risk, technology cyber security risk, financial risk, reputation risk. Let me tell you, all this risk, when it becomes in a larger scale, it becomes a strategic risk. What is a physical risk? Flood coming inside your company's plant and material getting damaged, fire taking place and material getting damaged, vandalism taking place. That's a physical risk. What is strategic risk? The decision your CEO does, and that decision sometimes boomerang, or he has done excellent decision he has taken, but implementation not done. They're all strategic risk. Compliance regulatory risk. A simple example, few years before, Sterlite copper plant, Sterlite industry copper plant, there was a leakage in sulfur dioxide. And number of people got injured, 1 or 2 people died. And the Tamil Nadu government has to close the Tuticorin Sterlite company. Crores of rupees lost to the company. Had they done a mitigation process of sulfur dioxide, this would have never happened. Operation human risk. Yes, we may have artificial intelligence, we may have robo, but let me tell you, it is a human being who drives. Let me tell you, if you appoint a wrong CEO and he gives a wrong decision, crores of rupees the company will suffer. Technology and cybersecurity risk. Yes, because of technology, I'm able to talk to you, and all over India, people are able to listen to my talk, but it has got a disadvantage because of cybersecurity, hacking of production data, marketing data, finance data, and even employee data can be hacked. Financial risk. A simple example of financial risk. If your company, 75% of revenue is dependent on one customer, and he pays payment in 1 month time, and all of a sudden, he makes payment after 3 months, the entire cash cycle goes for a toss. You cannot pay to the employee salary, vendor you cannot pay. A lot of payment issues will come. The biggest financial risk is misappropriation in India took place. IRFS, Satyam Computer for financial misappropriation. Reputation risk. Let me tell you, of all the risks, reputation risk is the most important risk. Because if the reputation is good, people like to do business with you, employee like to join the company, customer like to do business. But if reputation is bad, nobody wants to do business with you. Few years before, one of the leading Indian company, which has got branches all over India, world, one of the top senior executive, brilliant senior executive, he was involved in sexual harassment case. The Indian company had to shell off crores of rupees to come out of the sexual harassment case of the senior executive. So what I want to say is, you may have brilliant person, but if his character, his reputation is not good, you may lose. Strategic risk does not just focus on challenges that might cause a particular strategy to fail, but on any major risk that could affect a company's long-term positioning and performance. There's no one-size solution for risk management function, how risk is governed, whereas across industry and organization. There are 5 interrelated principles that underline effective risk management with the organization, both good times and bad. Integrated discipline of risk management, constructive board engagement. Wherever companies, where the top board is involved, there the risk management is great successful. Wherever the company delegate the risk management, including studies, to general manager, there the risk management is never successful. Effective risk position. Yes, risk position is very important. Like supposing, if we say, for example, motorcycle industry. In a motorcycle industry, some people want the looks of the motorcycle, some people want engine power, some people want petrol fuel efficiency, some people cost. So all factors you have to see. Even users application in a positioning. Nescafe, when they launched in winter, their advertisement was, have a hot cup of coffee. So when summer, what to do? Then they all came out with this thing slogan also, have a hot, cold cup of coffee. Then product process in positioning. Supposing somebody, let us take a shampoo company. Somebody wants a mild shampoo. Somebody wants a dandruff-free shampoo. Somebody wants shampoo which hair should not fall. Then culture of the company. Each company should have culture. When I was working in Blue Star, the Blue Star culture was the customer is the king. Citibank, you know the culture. The city never sleeps. Air India, which is taken by Tata's now. The Maharaja welcomes. Then strong risk culture. Multinational company has got a strong risk culture. If you attend any multinational company board meeting or audit committee meeting, minimum 4 hours risk management discuss in depth. Some days, 1 day also they discuss risk management. But the Indian company take it very lightly, except few Indian companies, they take it lightly. Appropriate incentive, yes, like finance department, marketing department, you pay. The person who handling the risk management, you should also appropriately pay it. There are 5 types of strategy risk. Competitive risk. What is competitive risk? Like, you should never be complacent. Like Hindustan Unilever, number of years before, when they launched Surf, they thought they are monopoly, nobody can compete. But Nirma came, they gave run for money. Similarly, then Hindustan Unilever has to change the advertisement strategy to counter Nirma, and even the product also they had to change slightly. Same case was Colgate. Colgate was thinking they are ruling the Indian market, but Baba Ramdev's Dantakanti came. They gave run for money. Colgate customers started shifting to Dantakanti, and Colgate has to change the advertisement strategy. Even the product they had changed for Indian market. Technology change. Yes, technology is constantly changing. What is technology yesterday is not technology today, and what is technology today may not be technology tomorrow. So you have to be constantly updating the technology. Regulatory risk. Here I would like to say, you should be constantly with the government. Your company should be government, because you produce a product, an close piece product, and inventory is lying, and all of a sudden government changes. The product goes for a toss. So you should be updated what the government is looking. That is why if we see the automobile industry, the government goes on changing the automobile emission norms. But the automobile industry, the small picking, they're able to change the emission. Political risk, yes. Political risk, nobody knows. Last year, after the COVID came, there was a small war between China and India, and Indian public became very sentimental. We told boycott the Chinese product. Can we boycott a Chinese product? Because most of the imports are coming from China. Very easy to say, because we don't have alternative strategy. Luckily, government did not ban the Chinese product. But if you want to ban anything, you should have alternative strategy. Economic risk. The best example of economic risk is COVID-19. When COVID-19 came, some of the industry became doldrums. The airline industry, the hotel industry, the luxury item industry, because people were doing only essential items. Okay, everybody may say COVID-19, nobody was expecting. But in a business cycle, just like boom is there will be a recession. And you should be prepared for recession also. And companies which are prepared for recession, they all survived the COVID time. The top 5 risks, according to me: merger and acquisition, fraud and ethics, large programs, new product introduction, business continuity. Here also, I would like to give an example, due diligence audit in acquisition. This was done by my very good friend who was head of audit in a multinational company in Delhi. To keep confidentiality, I will say as if I've done an audit. Few years before, the chairman MD of my company called me and told, Shankar, we want to buy a labor intensity company. And this company, we decided to buy 100 crores. And buying this company, our company turnover will go by leaps and bounds. Our profit also will go. So we have planned to buy the company. But at the same time, I want you and your team to do an independent study. I told the chairman MD, sir, you already decided to buy the company. Why do you want me to study and my 2-3 people to study? And I'll be using all external agency. And it will cost 6-7 lakhs. Since you already decided, do you want me to study? The chairman MD told, you don't worry about the cost and other thing. When I say something, do it means do it. Now, who can argue with the chairman MD? I came to my place. I called 3 brilliant chartered accountants. I told him, we have to do the assignment. So make a study, everything. I also did a study. I did Google. I discussed with people. I went to the company which we want to buy. I checked the records. We took the outsourced agencies. And we did an excellent study. And we released the report. And physical copy was also handed over to Chairman MD office. Here I would like to say, you may have excellent content. But if a presentation is not good, your report will lose the value. It's like if you go and have a dessert in a 5-star hotel or salad in a 5-star hotel, you feel like having, because the dressing is superb. But if you go to an ordinary hotel, you don't feel like having that because the dressing is not good. The next day, when I met MD and chairman, he told me, Shankar, I gone to the report. I think you don't understand business. I told, sir, why? If you understand business, we want to buy at 100 crores and you are suggesting for 72 crores. There's a gap of 28 crores. Had you suggested 1992 crores, I would have thought over it. But 72 crores you're suggesting? Sir, read my report properly. The debtors are overstated by so many crores. Creditors are understated by so many crores. The liabilities are understated by so many crores. Expenses are understated by so many crores. Lot of expenses are not booked. Lot of contingent liabilities can come. Few of the fixed asset has been highly overvalued by so many crores. Even inventory is overvalued by so many crores. And few senior executives have already left the organization because it's a labor-intensive company. Considering all the facts, in my view, sir, we should not buy the company more than 72 crores. I was very firm. The chairman MD saw for a minute and told, thank you, Shankar, you may go. I came to my place. I was very upset. In spite of doing excellent job, myself and my team, the chairman and MD blessed me. After a month, I came to know we have purchased a company for 80 crores, the labor-intensive company. So I met the chairman MD and asked him, sir, you told me that it's a 100 crore company and now you have purchased at 80 crores. He told me, Shankar, when I told you 100 crores, that does not mean we will not do negotiation. Myself, President Marketing, and few other people, we decided to do negotiation, 10 to 12%, and thought of buying at 88 crores. But your report gave a great value addition to us. And after seeing the report, we showed the report to the party and told him that we can buy only at 72 crores. He told nothing doing. And finally, he agreed for 80 crores. We also thought, where is 88 crores and where is 80 crores? 8 crores reduction was there. It was a win-win situation for both of us, and we had decided to buy the company. Thank you, Shankar, for you and your team for giving me, helping us in saving 8 crores. This he told in the board audit committee meeting. Strategic risk was operation risk. Whereas strategic risk can come from both internal and external forces, operation risk tend to stem solely from the internal process within the business, especially when they stand to disrupt workflow. We can say that strategic risk is about what you do and operation risk is how you do it. Impact of strategic risk is far greater in comparison to operation risk. Strategic risk management is a process of recognizing risk, identifying the causes and effects, and taking the relevant action to mitigate them. As already discussed, risk can arise from inside and outside an organization, such as manufacturing failures, economic changes, shift in consumer taste, etc. A strategic risk can disrupt a business ability to accomplish its goal and achieve value for itself and its stakeholders. Effective and efficient management puts the power in leaders to hand to avoid potential obstacles to succeed and maximize the performance. How do you identify strategic risk? In-depth understanding of organization. Your in-depth knowledge of organization. Your target audience, what audience? Age group, 20, 30, 40, 50. Income group, high income, low income, middle income group. Your market sector. Your overall competitors. And the environment which your business operate. And you should have a clear awareness of the organization core strategy goals from concept to proposed execution. Now, I'll give you here strategic risk, failure story, then success story. 88% of Fortune 500 company as of 1955 have become bankrupt, have merged, or out of 500. Main cause of downfall has been identified as a non-implementation of strategic risk model, either entirely or through sense. Kodak, which was formed in 1889, and they became bankrupt in 2012, was a pioneer in photography space. And one of senior executives even developed a digital camera, but Kodak did not want to pursue. And Canon pursued, and where is Kodak after 2012, and where is Canon? Blockbuster, which was formed in 85, at peak, it has 6 billion revenue, and 2010, it became bankrupt. And in 2004, it had 85,000 employees, 10,000 stores, and Netflix at 2000 wanted to sell the company for 50 million. and Blockbuster did not buy. Today, Netflix is 9 billion company. Once upon a time, social network, it was MySpace. Now MySpace is nowhere. Now people talk of Facebook, Instagram. We can argue this company failed to innovate, but I would argue they failed to see the iceberg ahead. In other words, they failed to manage the strategic risk. Success story. When I saw a success story, the first thing come to me is Imperial Tobacco Limited or ITC Limited or now ITC Limited. So as on 31st March 21, the revenue was 55,788 crores and net income of 13,319 crores. How did they service such a profit? 40 years before, they were only producing tobacco and the government was charging excise duty every year. Then the ITC thought, if they had survey in India, they had to do diversification. They start diversifying and they diverse in tobacco, they diverse in FMG, agro, hotel, paper, packaging, IT, etc. Now on 2020, the revenue from tobacco from 100% 40 years before is only 43%, FMC account 25%, agro account about 18%, other sectors balance amount. Although they have 77% market share. Had they not diversified, they would have become another blockbuster. Sorry. 3M. If you attend a medical conference, the first thing they will talk of 3M success. 3M is a multinational company, has a presence in the field of industry of worker safety, consumer product, nearly 60,000 products, and a classical example of US company, excellent strategy risk. As on 31st March 20, it had turnover of 32.18 billion and income of 5.35 billion, having 94,000 employees. What a strategy they did. Every year they will introduce a product, even if it's a small product they will introduce. And each product cannot exceed certain percentage of total business. One more example, Ramesh Chavan Thumbs Up, which was formed 1977. He sold in 1993 Thumbs Up Gold Spot Coca-Cola for 60 million. It was a win-win situation because he thought with Coca-Cola and Pepsi coming to India and they're having a war, the Thumbs Up will get crushed in between them. So they decided to sell the company. It was really a win-win situation. Now, I will give, let me see the time. Based on that, let me see. Okay, time is a little short, so I will skip that example.
5 minutes is left. 5
yeah, so I'll give, I'll just see. Role of internal roles also skip. Yeah, I will go to the qualities of internal audits are required. See what happened. Effective relation building requires several activities, including business acumen. When I talk of business acumen, you should wear the hat of an operating head if you want to do risk management strategy risk. If you wear a hat of internal audit, you can never do a strategic risk audit. Then 5 qualities are required to do excellent audit. Analytical and critical thinking, communication skill, data mining and analytics, general IT knowledge, and business acumen. Time and again, I'm saying business acumen is important. And when I say communication skill, I'm not talking oral and written skill. I'm talking your guts in talking to the senior people. I see a number of audit heads. When they talk to a lower level, they are very bold. But when they talk to top people, most of them, they say, yes, sir, yes, sir. And they say, this point we drop, they drop the point. Whereas your communication, you should be strong enough. Like my friend, he told 72 to Chairman MD, we can only go with 72 crores. Now, this also I will skip it. I want to give a practical tip. Yeah. I want to give a practical tip. This tip is not only for a strategic risk, but even for internal audit people. Based on my experience, do not sit in central AC office, go to site. In fact, what I'm saying, if you want to, especially head of audit, I've seen head of audit, when they are assistant manager, they all used to go to site. But when they become the head of audit, they never move out of the office. I have myself as head of audit. I gone to a site in northern region, 48-degree temperature, and roads, porta cabin with a fan, roadside tea, lunch, and an ordinary hotel. I was eligible for 5-star hotel, but ordinary hotel stayed. But I was able to find out how much scrap is generated, how much steel is input is required, how many labors are required, what is the manpower required, and what kind of accounting flaw is there, everything. But if you don't go to site, you will never know. Then do a job independently per quarter. Yes, if you're audited, you should do one job per quarter. Because what happened, then only you know the pulses, the job. For instance, I do every quarter one job. And what happened, like I'll tell you, once I went to an inventory review audit. There I saw that our warehouse we are giving outsourced audit. And it's a 500 square feet we are paying. But he was using only 150 square feet because our product, 1 plus 2 only they should stack. But he was stacking 1 plus 5. Then he was saying 300 square feet. And this warehouse is not a 1 hour. Throughout India, he was running the show. And second thing is, huge lakhs of rupees we are losing, not only money, the goods get damaged because 1 plus 2 stacking, if you do 1 plus 5, the goods get damaged. And third is FIFO system. He was doing LIFO system, last in, first out, because easier to remove the last piece, not the down piece. So the older piece remains older and the newer piece is going out. Be a friendly policeman, yes. Because you as an internal auditor, you should know, or strategy risk auditor, you are helping them to improve the process control system. You are not a policeman. You should be friendly. Otherwise, what happens? You are not there to fight. It's a fraud is a different issue. Other than that, you are helping them. Because of that, when I was head of audit in Blue Star or Fiat, we used to get request audit, number of audit, because they wanted us to help improve the process profitability. We have helped them in profitability. Think like a thief in respect to control because other. But here I'm saying, don't be a thief. What I'm saying, think like a thief. Because if you think like a policeman, you will think all good controls and you will have checklists. But if you think like a crook, then I know this control, if I want to break this control, what are the weaknesses in this control? Then you'll come out with 1 or 2 control. I have come out and my team has come out with a number of control weaknesses because we thought in a different manner, not like a policeman. Never compromise your integrity. Yes, here this is applicable to all departments, but I would say this is applicable to internal audit more. Why? When you find fault with others and you say he's made money, he has done a fraud, and if your integrity is not good, it's not right. Few years before, when I was head of audit of a leading manufacturing company, I was looking for a land, about 40 lakhs near Pune. But one of the plant head told, that time I didn't have any problem with him, that my friend is there, he'll give 30% discount. Shankar, why don't you buy the land? You save 12 lakhs. My wife also told Shankar, why don't you buy 12 lakhs? I told no, my integrity was not come. Tomorrow, if I do an audit, how will I do independent audit? So I didn't buy the land. My wife told, you are a fool, you should have bought it. You won't believe, after a year, we got an anonymous complaint and we have to do a scrap fraud audit of 10 crores for 5 years. And we have to sack him and everything. Had I taken the land with 12 lakhs discount, I could have never done an independent audit. That's why I'm saying, never compromise your integrity. Have your eyes and ears open. Yes, when you keep your eyes and ears open, you get not only for risk management strategy, for everything, you will get a lot of information. Because when you do an audit or risk management, you come routine only. But when you keep eyes, he'll say, sir, you are not looked in this area. Once I was walking through a plant, one person came and told me, sir, you are looking scrap me the rates only, but you are not looking at the number of quantity generated. Then I know his idea was good. Then we found out the generation of quantity was exorbitant. The rate he was giving excellent rate. And our auditors, what they do, they compare the rate. The rate is good, no? They feel happy. But the quantity was 4x and he was showing 1x. All audit findings show a solid evidence supporting. Yes, you may think this person done a fraud, everything, but you cannot release a report or anything unless you have solid documents and evidence. So friends, for whatever you are having, you should have solid document and evidence. Then only you release your report. Now, friend, I'm a strong believer of Swami Vivekananda. So before closing a session, I want to tell you, Strength is what we need. We can do anything and everything. Uttishta Jagrata Prapayavaran Nibodhita. Arise, awake, and stop till the goal is achieved. Friends, if you want a risk management, a strategic risk to do an audit, the top management should have a lot of faith in you. Like I had when I was a head of audit, the MD and chairman had a lot of faith in me. But you people should get the confidence in that you can do it. And my dream, to be tell honestly, more than 35 years in, is just like a CFO who sits in the board, sometimes as a director, MD. I want the internal audit head one day to become a director, internal audit, and one day he wants to become MD. With this, I thank once again all of you, Institute of Internal Audit Standard Board and the Jalandhar branch, for giving me an opportunity to talk on risk management. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for this valuable session and very, very knowledgeable session on the strategic audit. Now, it is the time of the question and answers. If anyone has questions, then please post your question in the question answer box. Then I will ask from our respected speakers for the relevant questions. So please post your question in the question and answer box. If anyone have questions on strategic audit or any other topic which we have session today. Or anyone can ask to directly to unmute themselves, so they can ask directly with our speakers. I think there is no question in the box. I would like to thank all our speakers, Paul sir, Shankar sir, and Sonia Arora ma'am, chairman of the Jalandhar branch of NIRC of ICAI, Deepika ma'am, and all the team of the Internal Audit Standard Board of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. And I would like to thank all the participants who have joined in this valuable session and grace the occasion of today's Internal Audit Board. So if anyone have any question, then we have a time of 15 to 20 minutes for the question answers. So if anyone have any type of queries regarding the topics, then they can post their queries in the question and answer boxes so that we can ask all the queries with our respective speakers. Sir, there is one question that how to safeguard organization from hackers. How to safeguard organization from hackers?
Paul sir, do you want to take it?
Yeah, now to protect yourself from these hackers, as I told you, there's no absolute security, but we can try to keep as safe as possible. You know, those 14 points which I showed you, now each of those vulnerable areas has to be strengthened. Now what the auditor can do is he can probably check and tell the organization that you're not following, let's say for updating the patches, you're not following it. Or you can say your firewall rules are not properly done. And if it's an advisory role, consulting role, the internal auditor can also suggest how it is to be done. Now it's left to the organization to do it. So most of the time, we have a lot of ready-made tools which are run, and they are fairly reliable because these tools are run every day. Or some of them run continuously. It's called real-time monitoring of systems. And the moment it detects something, basically machine learning based, if it finds a slightly suspicious, it need not be a fraud or a hacker. If it finds a suspicious pattern, it immediately alerts, or it may try to rectify something, or it may take something offline. So the point now is the cost versus the control. Now, depending on how valuable the data is, how critical the application is, whether you can afford a downtime on the application or not, whether sensitive data is going to be compromised, or if you're meeting some other compliances like GDPR or some overseas regulated compliances, or let us say we are holding data on behalf of a third party, or we are content managing. For instance, we are doing royalty distribution for movies or music sites or book sites. Depending on that, your level of security has to increase. But traditionally, what I find is there's only a 1 or 2% of the money allocated for the IT budget, which is not enough today, because if you are a highly IT-driven organization, your salary component will be very low. It should have dropped by now. And the IT component has to be increased. IT spending component has to be increased, because particularly with fintech companies and regtech, insurtech, medtech, those kind of companies, the safety is very important, because it will cripple the whole system. You can bring it down completely. Sometimes you don't get the right figures, but CTS paid a ransom to release the system, but obviously the number they will not disclose. Airlines, for instance, struggle with these problems. Logistic companies have these issues where they are mostly machine driven. If the people driven, then it's less of a risk. So how to protect yourself is basically all the discipline which I mentioned. It's like maybe protecting yourself and traveling in a train, you chain up your baggage, you do something, but still, if something is going to go wrong, it will go wrong. But if you have backup, sufficient data recovery, it will all work. But for every solution, there will be a cost attached to it. So when you present your reports to the audit committee, you'll have to do a very good job. One is, what is the vulnerability? What is the cost to address it? And what you will gain, because everybody wants value addition, or what punishment you will avoid. If you don't have the third column, the audit committee may not take it seriously. So that is one of the problems we are facing. We still need to educate people on taking care of things. For instance, if somebody could hack into your mobile phone and change the clock timing, then your entire calendar will go wrong. We know these things are possible, but why would somebody do it unless he's your enemy or he has a financial gain? So, that's the answer is, you can, what I said was just what I just spoke about network. You'll have to look at server security, network security, data security, access controls. You have to go to a lot of things. Then you build a very secure architecture.
There is one more question from Lalit Ahuja. Is there any tailor-made software for vulnerability assessment?
Yes, you have a lot of ready-made software. You can use Nessus, Nessus. Nessus is a good software, but now it is paid. So maybe if it's a one-time assessment, you just pay once and 1 month or whatever you pay and do it. If you've got a right team, then there's a lot of open source software, but most of it will run on Linux. Some of it will run on Windows. That's where some earlier speaker mentioned Kali Linux, and you got a lot of those suite of tools. But only thing is, whoever is doing this vulnerability assessment must make sure that they are not using some, like a hobbyist kind of program, but take them from forums, Linux forums, or Kali Linux actually is a Debian forum, Debian Linux forum. We get some MAC address, we get some IP address. Now, which is good, which is bad, which is acceptable. And that knowledge also we'll have to build. So ready-made tools, yes, available.
One more question: that to which extent we can rely on the system audit conducted by an independent consultant while assessing the risk management of a company and also finding out the action plans to mitigate the risk?
Actually, I would request Shankar sir to handle it. You remember he stressed on the business acumen. I think that's the most important part. Sir, you can add, sir.
What I understand the system or anything, as I told one point in the meeting itself, in the talk itself, I told you should be a specialized person. So if you're giving to any risk management, if it is system auditor, just like Paul Jacob, if it is system auditor, you should be specialist in that. You should not, internal auditor when he is doing risk management or any management, in that area you should be specialized. Then you should do it. But don't say subject to theoretical knowledge. I may have a lot of theoretical knowledge in system audit, but if I've not done a system audit, and if I do it, it will be a failure. So what I wanted to know is anything which you have to be done, it should be done by a professional, and because one mistake may cost the company crores of rupees. Just now Paul Jacob told one point, which I will say, I agree with it. A lot of companies are taking budgeting. When I do budgeting, they say, why to spend so much money in IT department? Nothing will happen. But if it happens, crores of rupees will be lost to the organization. Nobody takes care. Paul Jacob, you can add. You and Deepika can add.
Yes, sir. Actually, you're absolutely right, sir, because probably one of the main things an internal auditor has to do is educate the committee through his presentations and reports. That's why just reporting an issue is not sufficient. Background of the issue, the root cause analysis, what is the impact, what is the value. If you look at some of the formats, sometimes you wonder why so much is required, because then audit company meets once a quarter, they have no idea what's going on. I'm not blaming them, but I mean, they're right at the top, they're on the governance level. So the risk and compliance, they are worried, but they don't have a hands-on feel of it. So like sir was telling you, walking through a factory floor, looking at scrap. Now they don't do all that. They are not going to walk in the factory floor or go and talk to a scrap dealer. I mean, they're directors, they're different. So all that work the internal auditor has to do, compile it, and then bring it like a nice story form with lots of graphs and show it to them and convince them that this is true. In fact, he just spoke one line or two lines. I spoke to the chairman, it is not so easy. He must have taken a bit of time, lot of preparation, how to explain it to them. Will they understand what Mr. Shankar is saying? It takes a lot of time. It's a huge effort. I mean, he made it sound very easy, but it's a lot of homework before you actually can convince your...
I agree it's homework, but it's a presentation. No, you cannot go on and give details.
Exactly. Yes,
so you make it short now.
Yes, sir.
So, any other participants, if you have any question, then please post in the question and answer so that we can ask from our speakers. I think there is no more question posted. If anyone have any queries or questions, then please ask.
I wanted to say one thing. Whether Paul and Deepika agrees or not, I just want to know. My experience is multinational company gives a lot of respect for risk management audit, includes strategic risk and everything. Discussion takes place, I've seen them 5 or 6 hours. But most of the Indian companies, they just brush off with half an hour, 45 minutes. Very few Indian companies only go in depth. So what is your experience? That also you can share here.
Yes, yes, sir. The problem is when we have family-run companies or family-owned companies, not run. Generally, they have a lot of loyal employees or trusted employees. I mean, I'm not saying they're really trustworthy. The management thinks they are trustworthy or loyal, and they have this grapevine information system which ruins the entire MIS structure. So they will not, even if it's an officially presented report, they still put a lot of faith on their own people giving them information. That is my root cause analysis is that's what I have learned, sir. It's not easy to convince an Indian company that something is going wrong. But MNCs are neutral, sir. They are not owners, and basically all of them are professionals. All of them are held responsible, and if they commit a crime, also they will all have to get together. Coalition. So whereas in a family concern, they are already all together. So it's very difficult. It's not just in it's throughout the Asian things. So you find it in Malaysia, in Sri Lanka, in Singapore. This problem is rampant wherever these family-owned businesses are there. That's why when you switch from family, I mean, Indian, like you said, Indian company, what we mean traditional, you switch from there to MNC, you will not fit in, or you may fit in. But if you switch from an MNC to an Indian company, you will leave within a few months.
There is one more question. What are generally used technology tools used for effective internal audit in risk management? What are generally used technology tools?
See here, the word tools actually is not a software necessarily. It can be a weightage system. It can be a table where you are assessing your risks, and the best format is to use the COSO format, COSO, that's the best format. And if the person is also well versed with COBIT, COSO and COBIT combination formats we have now. You can take from the internet, or I have something on the LinkedIn, on the YouTube. They can go to the video. COSO format will give you everything, the risks and the controls, and whether they're manual or automated, whether they're key risks, and there's a long story there. And we try to align it to our Indian accounting, India's accounting standards. Put it frankly, it's aligned against IFRS standards. So it'll align perfectly. That is what we call a toolkit. But once you fill it up, the rating of the risk has to go through it's not very complicated, but a serious evaluation process, because risks have to be rated in the correct context. So we cannot, for instance, we are talking about, most companies, they talk about losing key employees. But if everything is patented, copyrighted, and all the IPR remains with the organization, a loss of a key employee may not affect much. But if it's like you're losing somebody whose IPR is in their head, or like an actor or a musician, then that makes a huge difference. So those risks are completely different. Like a recording company, a label artist, whatever. Or on the other side, you have a manufacturing company where mostly robotic driven and hardly any IPR is there in the people's heads. That makes a lot of difference. So again, I will fully endorse Mr. Shankar's view on business acumen. Absolutely required. Even if it's an ice cream company or in a poultry farm, business acumen is absolutely essential. That's why we say internal audit should not be restricted to auditors. You can have engineers, chemists, you can have doctors, you can have whatever skill sets are required, you should have them. Oceanographers, geologists, whatever.
There is a
tool is only enabler. Yeah. Tool is only enabler, that's all.
Working in incognito mode means working in risk-free or safe mode. Working in incognito mode.
I got the question, but incognito generally means you are hiding. I mean, it's like, I don't think it's a safe mode, but okay. See, what we do is sometimes we hedge all the risks. Hedge means I'm not talking financial hedging, but say supplies for instance. But even there we have failures. I can tell you, McDonald's, they have only one supplier for their buns, and then because of the growth internationally, they had to go for the second supplier. McCain supplies their potato wedges, but again, it's a problem. I don't think that works really well. Sir, can you add on to that, sir, on people trying to, it's ostrich policy, hiding the head and thinking the world is going smoothly?
It's okay.
Shankar sir, the question was, can we work in a risk-free environment? That means we can't do any business. We can do only very limited small operations.
Yeah. See, one thing is, I told you also, without no risk, no business can survive. Risk has to be taken. How you take risk, it depends. One is rational risk should be intelligently taken. All business has to take risk. Like today, when you give a talk, your talk can fail. That's the biggest risk, I'll tell you. But what you do for mitigation of risk, you always do 3 times, 4 times practice. You try to see what all points the audience will like. That's the risk mitigation. So there's no business or nothing. There's no risk-free. I have never seen anything risk-free.
Paul sir, I think the question was relating to Chrome incognito mode, sir.
Which one?
It is in incognito mode means working in
the question was
mode or safe mode.
Yeah, in Chrome, if you're in a browser, web browser.
Okay. What they're talking about? The incognito mode in a browser will only avoid the history from being saved. But that's not sufficient because history can be tracked by the web server's logs. You may not have it in your browser, in your PC or workstation, but it will be in the web server's logs. If you really want to avoid that, then you have to do what is called anonymous browsing. There are, on the internet, you get anonymous browsers, but the bandwidth has to be good. I don't know, actually it's illegal, but I can tell you what people do. Netflix and certain of these content management engines, they don't allow certain subscriptions for India. So these people pay the dollars or pounds or euros or whatever it is, get the account because they are allowed to use foreign exchange on credit cards from India, and they get the account updated or replenished, and they will be using a VPN connection which hides the Indian IP and shows a British IP or European IP or a US IP to watch movies on those channels. Actually, technically it's illegal, but I wouldn't say illegal. Technically it's unethical. But when the government finds out, maybe they'll make it illegal. But as of now, it's just unethical. I mean, I'm sorry, I used the wrong word. It's not illegal, but it's unethical because we are allowed to pay in foreign exchange. You're allowed to access that whatever services from there. But only thing is that machine will not allow a login from India. So they use these VPN connection to work. But when the scale increases, obviously the government will get smart and stop it. So cognito mode is not safe. Only on your local machine, it won't save anything. But your web server, the logs will capture the information. That's a part of the IT Act's requirement. Information Technology Act in 2000 plus 2008 plus the rules. It has to be captured.
Okay, sir.
And destruction of logs is a punishable offense.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Our time is over now, so we have to conclude it. So I would thank every participants and especially to our speakers, T. Shankar sir, Paul sir, Deepika ma'am, and Sonia Arora ma'am, and all the participants for joining this virtual meeting on behalf of Internal Audit Accounting Standard Board, on behalf of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. So I would like to thank all of you for joining us. So thank you, stay connected and have a safe health and thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank our participants also.
Thank you.
Good night.
Yeah, thank you.